Hello and welcome to Lesson 3. In this lesson, we are going to talk about saving and importing your library, the Designer Edition software, and editing a pre-made design. So your design library is something you need to access all the time. So in the bottom left corner, there is a little book icon, and if you click on that, you can see all the designs you have loaded in your library. If you've downloaded something directly from Silhouette, those designs will automatically import into your library and you won't have to do this. But if you have some designs in your computer, such as ones from the PageMaps class, and you know which folder you've saved them in, you can easily just select Import and Import to Library from the File menu, locate those files, and once you find the Silhouette version of that file, you can go ahead and import it. Now, for the files for this class, they are not in Silhouette form. You do have to open a PNG or SVG file and trace them. But once you have the Silhouette version saved, you can definitely do the same process. So I'm just going to import a couple different ones here into my library. You can see that once you import it, you can edit the properties, including changing the name of the file or the location of where you may have downloaded that file from. And it's going to automatically add it to the My Own Design section of your library. Now you can go ahead, as you can see, I've created several folders on the left-hand side of my library there. And all I've done is right-clicked on the My Library button there in the folder list and selected New Folder, and that created a separate folder. And so I can rename that and save it as backgrounds or arrows or Christmas, whatever sort of organizational method you choose. So you can keep going as often as many as you want. And that's it for what I'm going to do for this purpose. And next I'm going to show you how you can export your library. So if you go to File, Library, Export Library, you want to save this into an important area of your documents. So what we're going to do at this point is it's going to save a version of all the images in your library. So everything you've ever exported into your library is now going to save into one area, just in case your computer crashes, like mine did a few weeks ago, and you have to reinstall some things, and including the Silhouette software. You can very easily now go back into Library and Import Library and find that folder. And you can see I have April 2016, and I'm going to double click on that, and it will open up. You put in your password and your email address, and it will link you up with your Silhouette account, and it will automatically just start one by one loading all those items back into your library. You will maintain all the folders also, so if you've set up folders, that will all save as well. So something you want to do 2 or 3 times a year. Now let's talk about the Designer Edition of the Silhouette software. You get all the basic functions of the normal Silhouette software, but you also gain the ability to cut SVG files, use a really cool nesting function. You can use the eraser and knife tool we learned about in Silhouette Essentials 101, and the sketch tools we learned about in Lesson 2. So if you take the SVG cut files from this class, you'll see that there are actually 2 layers to those SVG cut files. If you click and drag the top layer of the cut file off to one side, you'll see you'll have one layer of the cut file where you can just cut around the outer edge, and one layer that has all the red cut lines already there around the edge of each of those words and shapes. So if you didn't have the Silhouette Designer Edition, you would have to open up that one there with the cut line around the edge. It would be a PNG file you'd have to open, and then you'd have to highlight everything and trace it to determine those cut lines. So having the ability just to open up an SVG cut file is pretty great. There's a lot of great SVG cut files available out there. So that's a really, really cool option. One of my favorite options with the Designer Edition is the nesting feature. So you can see here I have some floral designs, and I just want to cut these out of a 6x6 paper pad, and I want to use as little cut space as possible. So if you click on the nesting tool, which looks like an N with a portion cut out of it, and click on the Use Cut area, this is going to take all those shapes. I'm going just to ungroup them so they're each individual. You can see there's a blue line around the edge of my page. And if I highlight all those shapes and click on the Nest option, it's going to line all those shapes up on the page in the most economical use of the paper when it gets cut out. Now there's a couple different things you can modify in here. I'm just going to Control Z. You can select different rotations as well as padding. Now what padding does is that allows extra space around each of those designs, so when your machine cuts, it's not really close together. And as you can adjust this, you can see that it's moved the designs a little bit farther apart to allow for some leeway, and it's also adjusted where each of those individual flowers and circles will cut out. So I'm just going to do it one more time so you can kind of see how the nesting feature self-adjusts all of those different designs. So really cool. So if you want to cut into an aligned pattern so everything's lined up nice and even, you just have to click that little align button. And again, if you leave the padding the way it was, it's going to align all the shapes to the uppermost edge of the design. So in most cases, I use this feature when I'm cutting from a 6x6 paper pad. And so I'm just going to change this square that I've drawn into 6x6 size and line it up on my page. And I'm going to click on it and use that nesting feature again. I'm going to use Set Selected Shape as the boundary. So now I'll highlight my flower and circle shapes again. I'm going to hit Nest, and as you can see, it's only going to use that shape to nest where to put those flowers for cutting. If you want to change the rotation, it will allow the system to rotate those flower shapes in whatever way will automatically get it to cut on the paper in the most economical and least consuming way of your paper. So really fun. And editing complex shapes is something that I probably use most in my Silhouette edition, Designer edition. I have a border shape here, and we're going to actually create a doily just from this border shape and a circle. So I'm using the knife tool, and I'm using this, I clicked on the solid section there in the bottom area, and what that does is that completely separates the design that I'm cutting from the one it was previously adjoined to. And you can see, you can just quickly move those off to the side and delete them. And I've already gone ahead and done that. And I've got my grid set on here, and that grid button again is in the top right corner of the icon bar on the top, the menu bar. And I'm lining my circle shape up along that grid. And then I'm going to go up, and I have part of my border cut out. And I'm going to do the same thing. I have my crosshatch there in the center of my little piece of the border strip, and I'm going to align the center mark. I'm going to pull and drag that down into the center of the circle. And this is all information we learned in Silhouette Essentials 101. And then from here, I'm just going to replicate. Again, this is something we learned in Silhouette Essentials 101. But if you didn't have the knife tool, like you wouldn't in the basic edition, you would not be able to cut apart that border strip properly and replicate the shape. So I've replicated it. I'm just going to select all the images now and weld it together. And you can see I've created a super cute doily design. I'll just fill it in so you can see it better. So just taking two very simple shapes and cutting them apart and piecing them together, I've created my own custom shape. Now you can take another circle and take it one step further and create a bit of a different type of doily design. I made another circle, and I'm going to center that into the center of my doily design and then make it into a compound path. And what that does is that cuts that circle right out of the design. I'm just going to copy and paste so you can see the difference between the two. So now I have a doily with and without an inside circular border. So you can do the same thing also with a pre-made flower shape, like I have this pre-made flower here. And I'm going to create a bit of a doily design just using that flower shape. So along the same methods as we did with the little border strip piece, I'm just going to find the center of that flower and align it here with the center of the circle. And you have to play a little bit around with the replicating function and the angle and the number of rotations. And again, this is something we learned in Silhouette Essentials 101. And you just want to keep replicating that design until it goes all the way around the edge of the circle. And you could use this with any different shape. I'm just using a flower for my own purpose, as I think it will look pretty cute. And I'm going to move my circle out of the way and select all the designs and weld it together. And you can see I have a fun little floral type of wreath Next, I'm just going to copy and paste this floral out of the way so I can save that for later. And I want to create the exact same effect we did with the other doily shape by taking the circle and filling it in the black color. So I'm going to grab this circle and just drag it here over top of my flower design, and I'm just trying to get all those little bottom bobby things of the flower design covered. So I'm just going to make this circle larger and center it, and then select both items, make this a little bit bigger. I think it needs to be a little bit larger. And then I'm going to select both items and weld the shape together, and you can see I have once it's filled, a completely floral doily. So let's take a look at this week's sketch. And what I did with this one is I actually took just some plain rectangles and edited the design in 3 different ways to make 3 different Polaroid type of shapes, different Polaroid windows. I even took a heart and edited the shape and made a little heart window. And we used the nesting function when cutting all the flower element or the butterfly elements out for this page to conserve a lot of paper, because all I had were little tiny scraps of paper. I did the same thing here with this layout where I cut out the word cut file here from the class lesson, and same with this scribble here, and I cut all the little hexagons out using that nesting feature from different patterns of paper and from my paper pad. So that's it for this lesson, and we will see you back for lesson 4.